Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, the Joshua Van sweepstakes just picked up courtesy of Manel Kape's hands. PFL has two new champions, and both of them have nice options ahead of them. Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul in boxing. What's your level of interest this Friday with no MMA in sight? Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con, and look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio. He's here in Las Vegas. Nolan King is on the other side of the United States. He is the Boston shot caller. Tells you where he's at. Boston, Massachusetts. Dan Tom here in Las Vegas as well. He is our fight analyst, always ready to bring the energy. I just got to match him, man. Guys, hit that like button and subscribe later. I'll remind you about subscribing later. Right now, this is a test run, but hit the like button at least to get this thing going. Let's go, guys. Thank you, Henry Cejudo and Demetrius Johnson, for saving the flyweight division. It's been on fire. All right, I'll stop. Listen, no, seriously, the last few weeks have been amazing. We got some fight bookings ahead of us. It is something else. And of course, the latest to make a splash is Manel Kape. But before we get to the guys, I mean, this guy's post-fight interview was so good that we got to give it to you right now so you can hear it, and then we'll let the guys react to that too.
Now we're talking. Joshua Van, you told that Brandon Royval would do something. He kicked my ass, you know, because you replaced my place. Now you have my belt. If I didn't broke my feet in July, I would be the champion right now. Now, baby, hey, listen very well. I'm here, your daddy. Your dad is gonna take your diapers alive on a new deal, Paramount deal. I'm gonna take your diapers alive. Be ready, because you are in Houston, right? Let's fight in Houston in February, or whatever you want. Just sign the contract. Houston is my city. It's my first fight in the UFC. My first win was there. Fly knee, beautiful. I'm gonna get there. Hey, just be ready, because Manel, the Starboy, is here to hunt to be the champion. Nobody can deny. Nobody can deny my belt. I'm the best here. I'm the best.
About a 9.8. The diaper stuff started to derail a little bit. I don't know what happened to just the plain old ass kicking, but all right. Nolan King, I want you to start things off. React, and then is this guy ticking enough boxes that he might circumvent, he might cut the line ahead of a possible Van Pantoja rematch?
Yeah, I get a kick out of him, man. I wish I remember who said it on Twitter, but I think he knew that they said that he knew that there was 6 weeks of no UFC coming up, so it would take that long for us to figure out what that post-fight speech was. But I thought his whole performance was fantastic, obviously. And shout out to the UFC. I think a lot of times we're critical about their card placement and the, you know, we'll even probably get into it with this card, some of the decisions that were made about the bout order, but them putting this fight right after the title was defended, I think was a brilliant move to close out the year, because now we're entering 2026 with a very interesting conversation to be had about what is going to happen at flyweight. And I think if you would ask me before this fight happened, I would think it would take a lot for Manel Kape in my brain to jump over Tatsuro Taira. But he is certainly making a real argument now that with that performance that he put on Saturday, going in there and getting rid of Brandon Royval, who's a guy that even when he loses, it seems like there's a real dogfight that comes before it. And Kape just going in there and finishing him. He made weight, even though he was the last guy to make weight. I think he couldn't have played his cards better. And I think even though the diaper thing did confuse some of us, I think the way that he did his post-fight interview was fiery. I watched his, you know, he was on the desk with ESPN afterwards talking to Karen Bryan and them. I thought he did a really good job trying to promote that fight. He's very vocal on social media. So I think he's kind of the villain sort of, you know, smack talk guy that the flyweight division could use, right? And he's even getting Van biting a little bit on social media, clapping back with some he posted a video of an old guy with plungers stuck to his nipples, pulling them off and on to a Christmas song. So he's got this. The fight promotion is unique here, right? But I think that it's a really interesting fight too, and it's a really like a 3-horse or a 2-horse race now to get that title shot against Joshua Van. And both fights very interesting. While Alexander Pantoja is on the shelf, and we'll obviously probably get a rematch when he comes back.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Tatsuro Taira. I should have. I felt like Pantoja might be in the lead because of the whole run it back thing. And also shout out to Kyoji Horiguchi. A few weeks ago, he had an amazing debut, and he brings over an amazing resume. So we have lots of fighters available and ready to go. So what have you done for me lately, Dan? Tom, react please to that fight. And Manel Kape, is he doing the right thing to get that fight?
Oh, I think he's doing the right thing. Although if he talks any more about diapers, we might have to start calling Manel Kape kindergarten cop. But really, I mean, he was time cop, right? If he was any kind of cop, right? Because he got in there, did it fast, made a statement, and even though the odds were like heavily in his favor, and even to get in the knockout, like lest we not forget, like Royval outside of injury, technically has never been like knocked out like that, right? So it was very huge. You could say we are living in cop land now, right? This win probably could have took him over the cop. He's definitely got the cop gun. But before I spill any more movie titles here, yeah, I think you guys get the point. He definitely, punctuated his presence. I also want to shout out his team and Eric Nixick, who I know had a really excellent game plan that really could not have gone any more to the T. As far as that went. So I also want to give shout outs to Kape and his team as well.
All right, goes. How about you? Let's get a reaction from you. Manel Kape, amazing on Saturday.
Yeah, very much so. Manel Kape, I mean, always a dangerous fighter, but like Dan talked about the game plan and stuff, and he's a pressure fighter, but he was also a patient fighter, right? He didn't throw things just to do it. He made every strike count, and I love the way he was switching his stances. His reaction time was on point. I think Brandon just kind of got a little too comfortable with guys being a little sloppy against him and coming forward and just winging stuff at him and dragging him into some of these battles. When he finally got a guy in front of him that was very technical, I think he had problems with it. And I think it's a testament to that game plan and Manel Kape actually executing that game plan. He was very much the more technical fighter, and he made Royval pay for it, and there's a lot of things that we can say about the performance. About what he did afterwards, I mean, I feel like he took that spot. The video that we just played was pretty good, and I know we crack our jokes here and there. It's a second language and all that, but the message was on point. And I think if anybody did have things in Tyra's direction before, I think he stole them. Just the fact that we saw Joshua Van react to it the way he did, I think it was a 10 performance the whole way through.
All right. And you're right, Goes. It is his second, possibly third language. So we can't completely crap on these guys because I struggle with when I speak Spanish, and I thought I knew it, but I go to
no, but it was great. It was funny, dude, and I think he would even laugh at some of our jokes. He would laugh at it, but the fact that he did it, I think, is kind of what put him over the edge, right? Like you didn't see Tyra really do that, right? And it's not his fault. But it's just an advantage. It's a card that he played, and I think he's going to win because of it.
All right, guys. So I got to ask you guys this. If you were the matchmaker, what's the fight you make? Because he's angling for Houston and a fight night. It's not foreign territory. Dan can check me, but I think it's been done a couple times. I remember Valentina doing it once, and I think it might have been when she ran it with Liz Carmouche or something. It was in Uruguay. It was a fight night, but she did it, and I'm pretty sure Demetrius Johnson also headlined a fight night. So it doesn't have to be a numbered event. That's what we're going to call him in 2026. He's saying Houston, Joshua Van saying, all right, let's go. Both guys are healthy, and it really seems like the type of fight, like a Max Holloway point to the middle type, that we just can't get away from. But we also have to respect our champions that have held the title for a long time, and they've stacked up title defenses. Those are usually the ones that get that immediate rematch. So considering all that, and some of the other fighters that have been on fire, what do you do? Nolan King, what's the decision? What's the right decision for this division?
Initially, I thought it was Tyra, but now the more that I've thought about it, I mean, the Kape fight just to me is the most interesting. He's been a guy that I think's always been there, but he's underperformed. There's been some weight struggles. There's been all sorts of issues like that. Getting to the cage has been a problem at times. But I think it's his time now. And I think it's a little bit of a round robin here with MMA math and who beat who. And I just think for me right now, that's kind of the most interesting fight. It's got a little bit of fire. And I mean, they're already talking some smack. So that would be my vote at this point in time.
What's the MMA math?
So Tyra lost to Who did he lose to?
Royval. I think it would
Right.
be MMA Math if Royval had won, because Royval had beat Tyra last year, right? But
Yeah, you're right. So I'm
okay,
gonna
just
lean
making
with
sure.
no, you're right. I put
all right.
my own brain in a pretzel, which happens on Monday mornings. But yeah, I'm gonna lean with Cap. Even more reason, right? There you go.
All right. Goes over you. What would you do, man? You got to make a decision. You're in the matchmaker meeting tomorrow.
I love them both, and I want to see eventually them both get shots. But 3 straight, all finishes, a win over the other guy in the conversation. Man, I think the one thing that Cop had to show us was consistency to be able to make it to the fight, to make weight, all that. I think all that's kind of gone away. Plus, dude, if you say you're somebody's daddy, you got to answer to that, man. There's repercussions when you say things like that. So I think he set it up. You got to go Cop.
Dan Tom, is it unanimous, or do you got another opinion?
To quote Arnold Schwarzenegger, "I'm a cop, you idiot." No, I gotta go with cop here. You know, someone in the chat said, the only thing that'll mess cop over is if they go to Japan and they go promotional. And I get the UFC definitely through whatever semblance of meritocracy they've had out the window recently. But more realistically speaking, you've been following. Not that the UFC won't go to Asia. It's that their last decade, they've had such terrible luck when you look at canceled cards and even just getting there that, I think we'll end up in Houston far more faster than Japan, which is good news for Cop, because if that's the case, then it's probably Van versus Cop.
Yeah. And I will jump in here just to say one more thing too. This is like Dan said, they're probably not going to snap their fingers and have this fight booked regardless of whatever the next one is for Japan. But I think it's something they really have to consider. And even with Cop, I mean, he fought in Ryzen over there, right? So like they're very acquainted with him. He was kind of kind of like a heel figure over there. But they're hitting a point where these Asian stars are kind of coming up. We even have like Rinya Nakamura on the rise. This is a really good time. Yuri would have an appeal over there. They have a couple of like Patricio Pitbull and Tafik Masayev who headlined Bellator versus Ryzen shows. So there's a lot of guys I think that they could craft a card with here. So I really do hope in the first half of next year that we see this, maybe in Q2. I think it would be whoever, whether it's Cop, whether it's Van, whether it's Tyra, somebody of those three is going to hold the belt. So I think it's time for them to bring it over there for whatever the second flyweight title fight of next year will be.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
The good thing is Dana White was asked about it, and he kind of referenced that just needs to happen. Now, he didn't put a timeline on it or whatever, but at least when he's talking about it, it sounds like it could be sooner rather than later. And a good point made by Joseph Boza, always in our chat. Big shout out and fist bump to him. He says Joshua Van wants to co-main Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez. I forgot that Fluffy and Sean are actually getting down in Houston. So does that complicate things, Nolan, when it comes to card building, or could that be the main event and the others the co? Probably not, right? Because they've already set the wheels in motion. And so does that now make that card, that booking unrealistic for that event?
Yeah, no, I think it's probably unrealistic at this point in time.
Okay.
I think the UFC, I can't remember the last time that they came in and slid a fight at the top of the card. I think there was I'm trying to remember. It definitely happened once, but I forget what it was in recent years. But yeah, I think pretty much when the promotional machine already has their main event, that's kind of where it sticks. So I don't know. Who knows? Can the UFC, figure this whole thing out in April or something and wait? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think I'm into the matchup, and Pantoja can just get the winner, maybe. That would be unfortunate news with Tatsuro Taira. Kyoji Horiguchi's already been booked. So has Brandon Moreno. He's coming off a loss anyway. And Brandon Royval obviously will have to pick himself up. So I mean, I don't know. When they have possibilities, it's always a good thing, except in the featherweight division for Lerone Murphy and Mozar Evloev, but whatever. Listen. What is next for Brandon Royval, a guy that's fought for the title, fought valiantly for the title? He's been in the mix. Who do you match him up with? So let's do process of elimination. Moreno's been booked. He's got Asu Almabayev, if I'm not mistaken, in Mexico. And then Kyoji Horiguchi's been booked. It escapes my name. I know one of you three will know it, who he has, but he's been booked.
Albazi.
What would you do? Albazi, that's right. What would you do with Brandon Royval now, guys? And after some rest, because obviously he's had concussion issues in the past. Goes any names?
Yeah, no, that's the big thing. We saw how serious he took it last time, and this one was a pretty bad one, I think. So definitely he's going to have to do that. But more so than anything, I think the time away, he needs to fix his boxing a little bit, right? There were a lot of things that he just wasn't doing, and defensively, he wasn't doing a lot of things. It's one of those where instead of tightening screws, I think if you want to keep up with the elite of the division, I think you're going to have to reinvent that style a little bit. I like what he does with his kicks, and a lot of times his kick almost serves as his jab, but he doesn't really throw his jab much. His defense is kind of out there. There's a lot of things that I think he can work on because the rest of his game is pretty much on point.
I like maybe Tagir Ulanbekov, who just lost to Kyoji Horiguchi. That's what I would do. Dan, you have a name for Brandon Royval after a little bit of rest? Is there another competent flyweight you would throw out there?
I wouldn't disagree with Tagir. My thing is I don't have names. I have weight classes because neither Tagir nor Royval should be fighting at 125. To go touch on my breakdown, one of the things I touched on, and I don't want to toot my horn too much, especially with like some shared biases and connections with the camp and whatnot, although we did kind of come up with the same game plan, and that aged well. 2 weeks in a row, was able to finish the year strong as far as my predictions go at MMA Junkie. I called for a knockout along the fence line. But more than the technical stuff, what I also cited as far as like why I was picking Kape and why my biases to his camp kind of didn't matter, and why I would still pick him here is because I have a hard time picking Royval at this stage in his career at 125. I have my canary in a coal mine, guys. We've been seeing it since Corey Anderson or Anderson Silva before we even had these lighter weight classes, right? The long and lanky guys, once they get into their 30s and they're cutting a decent amount for their division, they are prone to the freak accidents, right? We saw that with Sean O'Malley, another guy, a long and lanky guy cutting to 135, right? How that was bad for him. Luis Smolka really did a number on his body. He's another guy who's my height. Same with Brandon Royval, 5'9", right? Cutting to 125. Pretty insane, right? And we also seen it with not just, freak injuries, but durability as far as gas tank and staying power. Look at Andre Uhl, who rightfully moved up to 145 since he's been out of the UFC, but 135, he had like 7 rounds of fighting in him, right? And Brandon Royval was a guy who, outside of his shoulder and stuff popping up to fit that canary in the coal mine, I actually predicted Pantoja to beat him at UFC 295 in the rematch by knockout, because there were already these signs even way back then for Royval. And in that fight, he may have lost by decision, but he did like weird reactions, was like going stiff and like was kind of like having those late, almost like Edson Barbosa, what's his name, Shane Burgos weird reactions, right? So not that I wish ill of Royval, obviously. I'm a big fan of his style, but this has been a long time coming, man. And then you had the concussion issues that you guys just touched on. And as you guys rightfully touched on, probably more concussion issues. Like, yeah, dude, stop draining your body of the water your joints need, the water your brain needs. And maybe he'll have more time to make those technical adjustments that Goz said, if he's not cutting so much weight. So sorry to go on that tangent, but please, Brandon,
you know what?
No more flyweight. No more flyweight.
You make a good point as far as now's the time to try a move like that. Figueiredo moved up, and he's had some marginal success. A few haven't gone his way. Some have. He's got this big fight booked against, who is it? I think Umar Nurmagomedov. So he's never far from the top. Imagine if he pulled that off. But yeah, this might be the time for something like that. I like it. All right. Another big fight from this fight card, guys, was the Kevin Vallejos win over Giga Chikadze. It was the co-main event. For one, amazing spinning back fist, patience. Man, this kid looked good. And, for a while there, I thought, okay, Giga under Cub Swanson, looking patient, picking his spots. This could really, really, become something. And then Vallejos just put it on him. Great finish for him out of Argentina. Back to Nolan. What were your thoughts on this guy? And do we have a new, I don't want to say title contender, but just a new name to be aware of, I guess?
Oh, 1000%. I mean, he's fantastic. Coming into this, I was very interested in him taking kind of that jump up and getting to swim finally in the deep end of the pool at 24 years old, to go in there and do that to a pretty accomplished glory kickboxer. Very, very, very impressive. And what a knockout too. I mean, obviously, Giga was pretty scrambled there, but I even think as a viewer watching at home, like that was, I had no idea what happened. You know what I mean? Like I had to watch the replay because the way that everything went down, just the spinning back elbow, hitting him with the punch on the way down, and then landing perfectly into a position where like just brutal elbows were able to be unleashed was just absolutely crazy. I can't remember the last time that it took me like that long to kind of process what I had just seen, and had to go to the replay to like figure it all out. So really impressive performance for him. I thought it was all class with the post-fight interview saying he was going to donate to Giga's charity. Like he's checking a lot of boxes, right? He's from Argentina, which has a good wave of talent coming up. 24, exciting, super experienced. I think they have a real star here. He's just supremely impressive and really just an awesome addition to the 145-pound division that's probably going to have a ranking next to his name tomorrow.
Homeboy is jacked. Dan, is this a fun guy to break down when you watch him? His skills just so heavy-handed, young, you know, and fearless almost.
Yeah, he's incredibly fun, you know, pocket boxing style, really fun. I will say I was a bit worried. I actually tweeted out that I didn't like how he looked in open stance. Giga is a switch stance fighter, but was smartly fighting a lot of southpaw to try to, you know, kick at the more wrestle boxing style and stature of Kevin Vallejos there. So I actually like I like a lot of what Joseph Bosa says in the chat. Shout out to him. But I saw him mention Arnold Allen, and I would actually I really would like to see him against a southpaw, especially a southpaw striker like Allen. That might be a little too far up. I know Arnold Allen, you know, keeps getting tough matchups and tough breaks in and out of the octagon. So, but from a stylistic standpoint, yeah, he's incredibly fun, George, and a lot of fun matchups. You know, you could really push him up the division. He's getting to that point. But at the same time, I'm in no rush, man. I'm enjoying the Kevin Vallejos ride.
Doesn't he kind of remind you a little bit of Jean Silva, just a smaller, stockier, muscular build, you know, but just a little tank that's marching?
Yeah, perhaps. And don't say that too loud because the UFC matchmakers might make them rematch from their fight from the Contender Series or what it was. You know how the matchmakers love their rematches, folks. That ain't stopping in the Paramount era, apparently.
All right. So what I know that is that Jean Silva is actually fighting Arnold Allen, and he was very careful and he was respectful. Cub was actually in Giga's corner. Giga fought Cub once before, and now they're buddies. Cub's been training him. Cub, I think, is more like on a farewell. If it sounds okay, I'll fight. But I don't want to call it like a Legends tour, but I don't know if you'd be interested in Kevin Vallejos unless there's really like if Kevin Vallejos had maybe spiced things up and maybe went at the Bloodline camp, which is what Cub's camp is called, perhaps. But I just don't see that fight happening. But what do you think of Vallejos and his rise?
I think his rise has been pretty impressive. I do think Giga looked fairly well. I think in the last couple of fights, the adjustments he's been making have been nice. They just haven't gone his way. When Vallejos finally got aggressive is when he was successful. He was very tentative. But I'll tell you what, you call out Cub Swanson in just about anything, and he will always respond. That's kind of how you get his attention. So I wouldn't be shocked if Cub Swanson took that fight. Because I don't think, you know, as successful as he's also opening up a gym as well, by the way, as successful as he is outside of the cage, I think he still wants to get one more in, and I think this might fit the bill. Maybe a little bit of a revenge fight.
SoCalers, Cub Swanson is opening a gym. I don't know its name, but I do know that it's in Orange, California. So if you're in Orange County, you probably recognize that. And Giga's, I do know, is called Giga Kick because we interviewed him pre-fight, and his is going to be in Costa Mesa, and I think they're both on the brink of opening something. But we'll see. But man, Vallejos, you made a great impression. That's for sure.
I think that I would first go for it.
No, I was just going to say, George, you might remember this. There was an old boxing video game we used to play. And one time Cub Swanson was at our house and he was playing it. And I was playing him, and George comes in and he goes, Cub had to leave because he had to train. And George goes, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I got to train." He goes, "But you haven't played me yet." And he's like, "I got to go." All George said was, "What's the matter, chicken?" Dude, that guy turned around, came back, sat down on the couch, and probably played like 2 more games. If you call out Cub Swanson, he's not walking away. So I have to believe he's going to do it. But sorry, Nolan, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, love Cub Swanson, love watching him fight. I just think in terms, this isn't even really about Cub, but like, I would give that call out literally like an F. Like, I thought it was he aced everything. A+, like promoting the fight, A+ performance, A+ with the charity thing. and you're about to have a ranking next to your name, and you call out a guy who is, you know, kind of like, I mean, he's even said in interviews with us, right? He's got like one leg out the door. He's kind of, you know, looking for maybe one more fun fight. And he was talking at one point about Uriah Faber, like that sort of stuff. And so you call out him. Like, it would be like a couple weeks ago if Manuel Torres had that win against Grant Dawson and he took the microphone and just went, "Joe Lozon, I'm coming for you." Like, it just doesn't necessarily make, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not on the pace of what you're doing here. So I know he's a fun character, so he can probably take the criticism of Vallejos, but I just thought that call out was weird.
Yeah,
it's not it. You know,
I gotta agree, and I also just gotta say that I know I give a lot of crap for rematches, but it's like the one rematch they don't make the rematches they should have made, guys. Like we were talking about UFC 218 before the show started, and Aldo, you know, with the whole Gravedigger effing him in the A line, right? Remember that? Remember that was an impromptu booking. What Aldo was rumored to be booked against, which, you know, Cub Swanson told you guys, MMA Junkie, was that rematch that should have gone down. That would have been the perfect time back then. And they've had the perfect time for the last 3 or 4 years, given the winters that Aldo and Cub Swanson have been in. And instead, what do? Like, nah, why don't you guys kill yourselves and go down to 135 because we haven't put enough killers in your row at 145. Why don't you guys go kill your bodies and continue to fight a new generation of killers division down? Meanwhile, the rematches were there. There was Aldo Cruz, Aldo Swanson, all these things. They could have got their rocks off with their rematches, but they blew it. Now we got Kevin Bajejos trying to do elder abuse out here. I mean, what's going on?
You're right, Dan. And they could have also helped bring some of that closure to WEC. And I know it's in the past and all that, but some of the hardcores still love it. And when you can tick a few boxes along the line, do it, you know. But yeah, that bums me out. Well, I don't know, but the fights didn't happen, not necessarily the way Vallejos call out. All right, give me another highlight before we move on to the next topic. Another highlight from this past UFC event goes. What you got for us?
Yaroslav Amosov versus.
I'm not
Neil
a Slav.
Magny. Yaroslav, not Amosov. Yeah, no, that was a great fight, man. Very tactical. Look, Neil Magny, I don't know how many fights he's had at that place. I mean, that's his home. And this dude came in and from the get-go put him on the defensive. I thought it was a good performance for him. And it's nice to see somebody come over and actually be successful, right?
For sure. Fought for Ukraine as well in the war, and I guess recently found his belt that he had left behind. But yeah, that guy's been through a lot. Nolan, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the correct answer. You know, it's kind of a shame that was down on the prelims, and then we had the heavyweights getting poked in the eye and have that draw in the main card. But what can you do? Immediate contender, though, for Amosov. I'm excited to see who they throw him next. But I will go with Mel Costa. What a year for him, right? A guy that was 2-2 in the UFC coming into the year, signed a new contract with them. Kind of looked like maybe he was a guy that was, I don't know what you'd call him. Like maybe in baseball, you'd call him like a quadruple A guy where he's too good for LFA, but he was maybe not quite good enough to make an impact in the UFC. And then he just turns the corner this year, goes 4-0, beats Andre Fili, beats Christian Rodriguez, beats Julian Erosa, and now goes in there and absolutely lands an ridiculous head kick on Morgan Charrier. And he didn't get the bonus somehow. That is shocking to me. One of the best knockouts of the year, and you don't get the 50K, kind of a bummer. But going in with a lot of momentum into 2026, and I think he's maybe going to be in the discussion for some sort of Junkie Award because he has broken through and flown under the radar all at the same time.
Dan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm glad Nolan mentioned that. You know, I'm not sure if I'm doing under the radar this year, folks, but I did it last year, right? And I gave it to Steve Garcia, who was the last person to beat Mel Costa, and I feel like that's aged very well. You know, I loved Garcia on with the Garcia brothers reunion with you guys. Maybe, you know, maybe Mel Costa's up there for that as well. You know, maybe he kind of passed the torch. You could say he's under the radar. You could say he's breakthrough. And honestly, you know, if we didn't get so weird with our fighter of the years and really pigeonhole ourselves, we're like, it has to be the popular kid in class with gold. Otherwise, they're not the fighter of the year. Oh my God. And we snub people like Oliveira and we snub people like Pantoja. But yeah, I wouldn't even be opposed to like getting someone Mel Costa because it's about narrative. And we talk about this. It's the same logic, right? When we go pound for pound rankings or whatever, and it's like, what have you done for me head to head? And what always gets left out is like narrative. Like people look at BJ Penn, what he's done in the last 10 years outside of the Lava Shack, not realizing like all you guys you glaze like Makhachev, Khabib actually do the same moves that BJ did. BJ was the first to introduce it, right? And I'll shout out a colleague here. I really haven't seen a fighter, a media member acknowledge a narrative like that, or a fighter of the year that I felt good about. You got to go back almost a decade back to our colleague Mike Bond doing an excellent write-up on the Rolling Stone for Michael Bisping's fighter of the year. Like that, honestly, guys, is the last fighter of the year narrative I can really get behind. And this isn't the same as that, Mel Costa, but he should be acknowledged, man. He's got a great story, and he's really done some great work when you look at it this year. And I think it'll age well if you buy some Mel Costa stock.
Well, good stuff, Dan. You made me laugh really hard there. You sounded like me with Big League Chew when I was a little kid. Hey, I saw Alexander Hernandez in Brandon Royval's corner. I want to put him in the consideration for comeback of the year, by the way. I think he's 3-0. He had fought twice in 1 month and had some couple bonuses, I think. So, yeah, as we get all this together, I saw him in the corner. I was like, man, he's had a good year too. But anyway, all right, we spent a lot of time on that one. Let's get going here with Viva la France. The MMA events, guys, in France are pretty special, regardless of whether it's UFC or PFL. The fans are so money. I want to go to an event one time. Never been to France, but I'm telling you, it's like a World Cup final out there. So props to you guys. I bet you really, really lift the fighters. In the main event, Vadim Nemkov defeated Henan Fajeda. He now becomes the PFL undisputed champion. And he wants Francis Ngannou, apparently. Quick reaction here from the guys goes, your thoughts on that fight? Pretty surgical, taking down the big 6'8" Brazilian and then going to town, going to work.
Yeah, from the first second of the fight, he forced him to fight his fight, right? Ferreira was on the defensive from the get-go. And Nemkov, to me, is finally starting to come into that heavyweight frame. I think this can be a very dangerous dude, man, and that performance was top-notch. I think you couldn't have had a better night.
Yeah, no doubt. Dan, what do you think, man? Under the tutelage of Fyodor Emelianenko, this guy's, if you look at his hit list, he's beaten 10 fighters who have held major belts. It's just that he's a quiet Russian who barely speaks any English, not very charismatic, but he's actually a pretty damn good fighter.
Yeah, man, I've been a big fan of Nemkov. The heavyweight thing is still kind of tripping me out, to be honest, as far as his future there. Like, is he doing it because that's the options right now? Did he really have trouble, making lighter weight? But you mentioned, Fedor, right? And that's a lighter weight, heavyweight. So it can be done, right? And it's still not a thing that's ever really gone out of fad. I mean, heavyweight, not the deepest division. So I think Nemkov can swim fine. I think that, I don't know if we're going to get to see him versus Ngannou next or when that could happen or would. But, I mean, I guess that's what would make sense now, according to their stable. But, yeah, man, I also like that you shouted out the French crowd, by the way. France doesn't get enough love maybe, but, man, their crowds and their fighters, but their crowds, obviously, in this case, really just stepping up.
And every time they showed Fedor, the crowd went nuts. He would just give him a smile. And there was just this great connection, man. It reminded me of the old Pride days. Fedor connected with the Japanese crowd as well. Nolan, your thoughts on Vadim Nemkov's performance?
Super smart, super, like you said, George, tactical. Why risk it? It could be cool to go in there and make a 6'9" guy hit the ground and, knock him out or whatever. But why take that risk when you've got a lot to gain? So I think he did exactly what he needs to do. It's a good option for PFL to book him and Francis. Like, I'm still a little bit biased towards the Rico fight. If they could ever get that done, I think that would be massive. But I don't necessarily know what the likelihood of that occurring is. So I think this is probably the most realistic option. And it's one it's pretty legit. I mean, we think about, when Fedor came back to Bellator, or when Francis left the UFC initially and had gone to boxing, but they started talking about MMA, what he would do, what opponents he would fight. And they're very rarely do you get a very legitimate heavyweight fight to be able to be made outside the UFC in 2026 or 2025, 2026. This is the opportunity for that to happen. This would be a really legit fight between two guys that are world class. And so I think this is a great, I don't want to call it a fallback, but a great realistic option for PFL to have right in front of them, you know?
Nolan, help me out. My brain was on Heisman Trophy, NFL football. I did see a Rico Verhoeven walkout the other day. One of the greatest kickboxers ever. Who's the Rico guy?
Yeah, Rico Verhoeven.
That's who Vadim's talking about?
That's who so he's a free agent now.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
You want to see Rico Verhoeven versus Vadim Nemkov?
No, against Francis.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that was
so Rico's been talking about, from some reporting from Ariel, has been talking about potentially making the jump to MMA, and then he's talked to the UFC, he's talked to some other promotions. So
I'd love
if
to
PFL could somehow muster up the yeah, I mean, let's get weird, man. You guys, a world-class kickboxer. Like, I know Francis can shoot for those takedowns. We've seen that before, but let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Wow. So that's who they actually meant. Rico. I was like, does he actually mean Rico?
Yeah.
Guys, Dan goes. Are you cool with Vadim and Ngannou? I mean, there's not much depth, right? And this is the champ against the super fight belt champ. Let's just do it. Francis has one fight left.
I think they told you everything when they did the in-cage interview, and that wasn't enough. They brought him over to the broadcast crew and did it again just to get him to answer that question. I think the PFL told you everything they want to do with that move.
And Dan, Ngannou's doors are closed at the UFC apparently, so let's just ride this one out, right?
Yeah, man, it's sad to see or sad to say, but you know, I think they have to, and that's why options like what Nolan said from left field maybe won't be so left field. I mean, this is MMA at the end of the day, guys. This is heavyweight MMA. We've seen these things. We've seen all these narratives play out before. Wild fights, getting ousted by Dana White. You know, as gloom as it might seem, we've also seen this before, right?
Yeah, that's true. Chris Cyborg defeated Sarah Collins. She's their featherweight undisputed champ. Now, you may say they don't have a featherweight division. Well, John Martin, the CEO of PFL, told us last week they're going to get away from those tournaments, Grand Prix, regular season playoffs, whatever. And they're just going to have, an arena series, basically. They're going to book fighters and try and make the best cards possible. So I don't know if they plan on bringing it back, but it doesn't matter because Chris Cyborg also told us last week that she's on a legacy tour. She's only got one left. And she mentioned Dakota Ditcheva. Goes and I are on the other side of this. I think it could be one of the biggest fights of all time in women's MMA. Goes acknowledges that it could be big, just not as big as I think. So Nolan and Dan, Tom, what are your guys' thoughts? I love that Chris uttered what I've been thinking, what I pitched John Martin, in which he kind of gave me a little bit of a Heisman Trophy when we talked to him.
I'll go first. I don't really know how I feel, to be quite honest with you. On one hand, I mean, it would attract attention, right? If you're PFL, you want people to tune in. That is something that 1,000% will get you a lot of promotion. People will be interested. There's intrigue. So that's good. On the flip side, the size difference thing is problematic for two reasons. One, can Cyborg make 135 pounds? And two, if she can, how much bigger is she going to still be than Dakota? And I would say significantly. So to me, I don't know. I would watch
35, I would watch the same devils that Dan said that Jose Aldo described or whatever. They'll visit Chris Cyborg. There's a video of her seeing death at 140. Mm-hmm. So forget about 35. I think forget about 40. It's going to be Ditcheva having to weigh 136 and a half. I don't know what she weighs on fight night. And hoping that Chris is in 170 that night, but
yeah, and that's my thing. Like, if you ask me, like in the UFC, like, oh, would you like to see, like, I don't know, this might be an exaggeration, but like Tom Aspinall fight like Hamzat, I'd be like, it's kind of weird, but I would probably watch to see what happens. But I kind of also feel like I know what's going to happen because there's just biology involved in this whole thing. So I don't know. I'm split. I would say probably not to be like the party pooper here, but I'm kind of against it if I had to go one way or the other.
I knew you'd be Goza's homie. Dan, dude, you got my back or what?
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, might be not the best example, but there's a lot of examples of this in the space where there's two answers, right? There's the common sense answer, which I'd probably side with Nolan in the size issue. We're just going to get flashbacks to like traumatizing poor Gina Carano fans on the air. Remember when that happened? They just bring in Cyborg to beat up whatever babyface female we got going. But on the other side of it, when you have to ask, well, what is right for the PFL? Same with Nemkov and Ngannou might not be the first thing off people's tongue. But if we're talking about what is right for the PFL, then yeah, I don't blame Gigi for his ideas. And I feel like, Martin's stiff arm of him, so to speak, perhaps is loosening if they're humoring things like this, right, guys? So it's kind of a two-answer thing, and it just makes it kind of much more annoying. And I'm really not trying to harken back to the tie into the rematches, folks, but it's like PFL and all they're supposed to be like one of the best organizations outside of the UFC, and they're stuck putting together like divisions of like that are 1 or 2 divisions apart to do their matchmaking. And you'd be like, oh, that's UFC and the monopsony and market dominance and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, why aren't we getting fresh matches at the UFC? Why is it constant rematches? If that's what in other words, that's why it's so annoying, folks. It's because the other organizations have to play with breadcrumbs. Meanwhile, the UFC, it's this like bastion of riches, yet we can't get anything but rematches. And anyways, that's just what it is.
All right, guys. Well, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be big, and you guys are gonna thank me. Let me just say a few things. Kayla Harrison was once a 55er. She's fighting 135 against Amanda Nunes. When we talk about BJ Penn, we mentioned a few things. He went up to Matt Hughes and choked him out. He had battles against GSP, and then the hardcore score say one time he fought Lyoto Machida at 205. That was great stuff. Jens Pulver finished as a 135er, yet he was fighting 55ers at one point. All right, so great stuff like this has happened. Royce Gracie submitted Dan Severn once, for crying out loud. These are those mythical stories that you hear about, and I think Dakota, if you pitch it to her right, she would want to go after someone. She has that Cyborg is 40 now. She might not be. I mean, she's still fighting at an elite level, but maybe not athletically peak performance. It's more of a size thing, but I think Dakota could go for it. And if she got shut down, she got shut down. No one would hold it against her. But if she took her down and then added any PFL hardware that she gets along the way, and then eventually goes to the UFC, she would be in that conversation for Mount Rushmores, man. So I'm telling you, this fight not only should happen, it has to happen, guys.
No, George. Okay, first of all, if I'm Dakota Ditcheva, I'm calling for this fight. And the reason I'm doing it is they ain't going to give it to you. Let's be honest here. This is a business at the end of the day. Chris Cyborg has one more fight, okay? Let's say she goes in there and she wrecks Dakota. She's no use to you. She's gone. All she did was wreck the golden goose. From a business standpoint, there's no way the PFL is going to do this. No way.
I'm just trying to refrain from making a joke about I don't want to see Dakota get pounded, but there's something there to make a joke. Anyways, yeah, let's just I don't want
It's too big of a size. Like no, man. It's just
luckily she's taller, so it won't be. I mean, I think their height will be sort of close. I think Dakota, if you give her enough time, she can maybe just add a little bit of weight, but I don't think it would be as bad as people think. Chat room, what do you think? GG's tripping, or I got GG's back? Let's hear it. I really want to see Ditcheva versus Cyborg, and I don't think it's going to be any form of destruction. Look at Alex Pereira, was an 85er, and he wants a piece of John Jones at heavyweight. I'm telling you, it's not the craziest thing we've ever heard. All right. The three guys and John Martin have given me the Heisman. Listen, some stuff went down this past week, guys. Let's go over the headlines. We may have to make up ground, so maybe just a couple opinions from each guy on each topic. Mario Batista versus Vinicius Oliveira headlines the first UFC Fight Night on February 7th. Thoughts, guys? Dan, what do you think of this? And this is Mario Batista headlining, by the way, so he gets all the shine coming off a loss. That's, I think, the UFC's way of saying, hey, you fought well against Umar. You deserve this.
I don't know if this is in the Apex or not. It probably is because it's a lighter weight fight. Yeah. But you know what? I'm still not even going to crap on that, because even if it is in the Apex, even if they're doing the Demetrius Johnson, we're going to set you up to fail flyweight to the bantamweights here, of course. I'm still happy because we're getting a fresh matchup and we're getting the fights that should be 5-round guys, not like this heavyweight slop that doesn't need to be, 5 rounds or whatever. Thankfully, we're not getting the no offense to Rosenstruck. Hope he's doing well, but we're not getting those, 2 or 3 times a year headliners by the Frozen Struck staring at his opponent for 5 rounds. So yeah, I'm all for it. Give us more lighter weight classes, headlines, matchups, meaningful fights like this. Lock Dog is awesome. Let's go, baby.
Dan, Nolan, you like this matchup of bantamweights?
Yeah, just totally. I think it's if we're gonna live in a world where Apex shows exist, I think this is a perfect function of what their main event should be. 2 guys that have not headlined, that you're trying to familiarize, legitimize further, and give 5 rounds to. Maybe they're not the biggest names, but like Dan said, they've certainly earned it. And I think we'll be able to tell a lot more from a fight where these guys go 25 minutes than feeling like this is buried on, in a 3-round fight, even on a pay-per-view. I think this does this matchup justice. So I'm a big fan of it.
I would have wanted to see rounds 4 and 5 of Nurmagomedov and Bautista, because that fight was just picking up, man. Goes, I know you love this fight. We interviewed Mario Bautista, and folks, on our YouTube channel, I always tell you guys subscribe and like the videos. The likes just help us a lot for that specific video, but consider subscribing. We've now reached 430,000 subscribers. We're proud of it. It's all because of you guys. It's free. Just click that button and we'll handle the rest. So I know Goes' thoughts on it. He loves the matchup. Goes, let's start off with your thoughts on Albazi versus Horiguchi. So Horiguchi comes back to the UFC. He had a 7-1 run, only losing to Demetrius Johnson. He went out and got some other titles. He experimented at bantamweight, was successful there, and then he came back to the flyweight division. He did good. He is also on that same fight card as Bautista versus Oliveira against Amir Albazi. Your thoughts?
I love this fight. I think I'm a big Albazi fan, but I'm also a big Horiguchi fan. I think styles make fights, and I think Horiguchi has the style to create some problems for Albazi. I think I would love to see this fight just go into the later rounds and really test both guys. But at the end of the day, right now, my early lean is Horiguchi.
And we got 2 stars that are Japanese in that flyweight division. And Dan, I think they don't like each other much, man. Taira and Horiguchi. They have opposite opponents at some point. I don't know if they'll fight or what, but your thoughts on that fight?
Albazi and Horiguchi, or
Albazi and Horiguchi,
yeah. I like Horiguchi as well in that spot. They're giving him the maybe the longer road here, the less impressive road, because unless he highlights Albazi, I'm not sure how much that'll do for him. But yeah, I like Horiguchi here, and the Japanese versus Japanese rivalry could be cool down the line, especially if Horiguchi keeps winning. Obviously, Taira still has his whole career ahead of him.
Yeah. Nolan, Brandon Moreno already is set to go. He's going to headline the UFC Mexico card on February 28th against Asu Almabayev. Your thoughts there for Moreno wanting to just get back in there? He thought that fight was stopped too early. He doesn't want to fall out of contention.
Yeah, if he's healthy, I think it's a smart move. The UFC needed a Mexico main event, and I know when they were supposed to go there for Noche last year, right, they really didn't have any Mexico stars on hand, and I think there was arena issues, but that was also part of the reason that they moved it out of the country entirely. So it's nice for the Mexican fans to have somebody, one of their biggest stars on the card, and it's good for Moreno in this slot to come back and try to, people have a short memory. What have you done for me lately? We say that a million times in MMA, so he's taken full advantage of that unofficial clause as an MMA fighter, and yeah, good fight, good booking.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. We covered this already. Francis Ngannou only has 1 PFL fight left.
Mm-hmm.
Who should it be against is kind of the question. I think the Nemkov fight seems like a slam dunk, but any thoughts here, guys, on that? And again, it doesn't sound like Dana White wants him back because he keeps reiterating he's a bad guy. Dana White did back off a little bit on the physicality of their run-ins that they had that he talked about on the Andrew Schultz podcast. I think he just filed it under bad shit happens here or tough guy stuff happens here or whatever. But any thoughts on that whole situation with Dana White? And of course, if you have another name other than Nemkov, let's hear it for Ngannou, or what might be next for Ngannou. Nolan, back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fight to make, like I said, realistically, I think it's Nemkov. If the Rico thing were to come up, I think it is weird. Like, there's all sorts of aspects where you could argue that isn't as good of a fight, or Francis could take him down, whatever. But I think for PFL, that would be massive. It would attract so many eyes. And people in the kickboxing world to watch it as well. So that's my pipe dream, and then the reality is the Nemkov fight. As for the Dana stuff, yeah, it's weird, man. I try not to jump to conclusions ever, but I felt like Francis's interview on Ariel was strange, and then I thought Dana's interview with Oscar was also strange, right? To kind of backtrack and go from saying he grabbed me by the shirt and pushed me to saying he just put his hand on me. Like, I feel like that was a kind of a big leap as well. So do I think that relationship is done? I do. I don't think that we'll ever see Francis back, which makes him kind of an interesting case study about playing your cards in 2025 and 2026 in MMA, right? Like, he obviously cashed in a lot of money, made a lot of money in boxing, but just the state of the sport now, he's struggling to, outside of this next PFL fight, I don't know what direction he'll go in unless somebody emerges from boxing that wants to do that again. So it's interesting, man. It's certainly it sums up the MMA landscape very well in 2026.
Nolan, you ain't lying, man. He did backtrack. He made it sound like he got jumped, like he was Max Cady or something. And in the movie Cape Fear, and then he went to I think it was an Indian burn and a noogie. Anyway, Francis didn't help himself, Dan. On Ariel's show, he was asked specifics, and he just tap danced around it, almost sounded like he wouldn't expect the questions. What do you think, man? Where do you want to see this guy next, Francis Ngannou, and what do you think of the way that whole dramatic thing has unfolded?
Yeah, I agree with Nolan. Even though we've seen Dana backtrack on this story, and we've seen him backtrack with relationships at the same time, and even with it being heavyweight, and even with it being Ngannou, he is getting older, and you could totally see the UFC just waiting it out. Someone in the chat said Gable Stevenson. It's like I think the UFC has their eyes on Gable Stevenson and would be happy to have a bunch of Gable Stevensons or whoever, so they can be like, look, we got the best. And Francis, the kid didn't want to fight. And, they're going to play all that and stuff. But listening to all as I close off my segment here, listening to all you guys talk about this, it mainly makes me have a lot of respect for Chris Cyborg, because Chris Cyborg, Dana White was doing like impersonations of her, remember, like in the media talking crap about her. And you want to talk about, we talk about how dire men's heavyweight is. How about women's featherweight? Even now in 2025, much less how it's been, yet Chris Cyborg has been able to have a career, keep herself in the greatest of all time standings, win belts in multiple organizations. I feel like we got to hat tip her, because it can feel dire talking about Ngannou's future, but then you look over at Chris Cyborg, who on paper has less of a chance in this man's game, so to speak, right? MMA, and she has really made a home for herself and all the ladies that have followed her suit. So not the answer you're looking for, but hat tip to Chris Cyborg for being able to stay active.
Yeah, and by the way, Dana's butted heads with Randy Couture and Tito Ortiz just as bad as Francis Ngannou, and he brought them back. So this whole bad guy business, trust me, if it's business, it can get done. So anybody that wants a sliver of hope that Francis would ever come back after he fulfills that one fight or time expires, who knows? There is a possibility. All right. Goes PFL is going to Spain. PFL beats the UFC to France, beat them to Spain. They're going with Costello Vancinas, not in a rematch against Johnny Evelyn, but he's fighting Fabian Edwards. Beat Dakota Ditcheva's Boo not too long ago. So yeah, pretty exciting there. This is a big country. This is a big sporting country with passionate fans. This is a home run, man.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, you have to give Costello his flowers, right? He got the job done. Can't forget that he was having problems in that fight, right? But I like this fight. I think both fights are different. Fighters are different than what they were the first time they went around. So I'm down with it. Just the fact that it's in Spain is really what captivates me. I want to see what that crowd can bring.
Yeah, and to be fair, they've also been to South Africa before the UFC went to South Africa, and Bellator got to Hawaii before the UFC. I don't get why the UFC just drops the ball on certain things, because these are passionate fan bases that deserve it. They had a South African champion. They had Hawaiian legends. You know what I mean? Now they got an army of French fighters as well. Luckily, they are going there. But man, why it took them so long is crazy. Listen, for the next 6 weeks, we're not going to have too much MMA, so we got to get excited about any form of face punching. So let's discuss real quick Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. As mentioned earlier, MMA is done till January 24th. I don't even see the traditional end of the year show in Japan that they've had in the past, first be it Pride, World Victory Road, Risen as of late, Risen versus Bellator. I haven't seen any of that. So this is it right here, folks. Now, why we're throwing it at you, even though we're an MMA show and this is boxing? Okay, well, Jake Paul's fought some MMA guys, and there's 2 MMA legends going at it on the undercard. I guess the co-main, and it's Anderson Silva versus Tyron Woodley. Level of excitement for this, Nolan.
I'm kind of fatigued on the whole Jake Paul thing, but I do, again, kind of always fall in the category of somebody that will gleefully watch a freak show fight, and this feels like that. Him going in against Anthony Joshua is obviously very different than the other fights that he's taken, fighting not only up a weight class, but somebody that's one of the biggest present day stars in boxing. It does check more boxes than some of his more recent fights have for me. But at the same time, I think outside of just that intrigue of like the freak showiness, I don't know. I feel like the from what I'm seeing from our audience, from what I'm seing online, I feel like people aren't in ticket sales. I don't know if people have seen those screenshots of what the arena looks like in terms of the tickets still available.
Is it good or bad?
There's still a lot left. So it doesn't necessarily feel big or anything. You know, I don't feel like there's a lot of people talking about it. So I'm not really sure. But for me, I'll watch it. I'm kind of intrigued on the freak show and just him fighting somebody that's very legit. But outside of that, not really.
Do you want him to win or lose?
Not really. I don't feel passionate either way, but I do think that there is something satisfying about seeing somebody that has not lost, but has also not challenged themselves as much as they should. Or I don't know. I mean, the guy was a YouTuber, so I can't really crap on him too much, right? Like, but I think most in the MMA world, seeing him go down would be, you know, somewhat fun.
All right, goes a level of excitement. And do you want him to win or lose?
I have to watch it. It's my job. But if I didn't, I probably wouldn't. I'm just tired of this hustle. I'm tired of being a part of it.
So why not watch him get knocked out?
Because I don't know that that's what's going to happen. That's the problem. Like Jake Paul events are that girlfriend you keep taking back and she keeps cheating on you and you just keep going, I'm never going to do it again. And it happens again and again. He's a master performer. I can't hate on their hustle. Okay. But he's so smart that I honestly think in his head, he probably says, you know what? Maybe it's time to get my ass kicked just to keep that level of excitement up, that people stop saying these fights are fixed or predetermined or guys are taking it easy. He might just do that just to get 3 more fights out of us. You know what I mean? If you look at the end of the day, who is in front of him? This is a world-class boxer, okay? I'm going to use the UFC as an analogy. Look at what Hamzat did in his last fight, okay?
You mean put us to sleep?
Look what Islam did. And those are against high-level MMA guys. And they made us question whether or not these guys even deserve to be there. Can you imagine a guy with the experience of Anthony Joshua sticking around for more than 2 rounds would be absolutely insane. He should put Jake Paul through that mat. If things are the way they should be, that's what should happen. If he makes it out of round 1, it's a victory for Jake Paul. Is that going to happen, though? How many times we tune into these and things don't really go that way? That's the only acceptable outcome for Anthony Joshua. He's got to put him out early.
Dan, your thoughts?
So I will hate on them, and I'll continue to hate on them, and I'll continue to not watch the privileged Paul fights. And I will look forward to, however, though, that he seems to have a good chance of getting decimated in this one. So if I'm walking down the street on Friday and I see like one of hundreds of the armies of legions of broccoli cut gym bros with tattoos and chains, if they just start like disappearing like it's Marvel Endgame, I'm gonna be like, oh, the universe is writing himself. I think Jake Paul just got annihilated. Let me check my phone. So I'm going to do that and hope like they just go all back to the future and disappear like Marty McFly.
Yeah. I used to think I wanted him to get knocked out just because he was picking on our older retired MMA guys.
Sure.
But man, who in the hell wants to fight Anthony Joshua? That's so ballsy. I got to give it up. At the same time, these guys have managed to make hand over fist type dough. I can't hate on them for that, man. I wish I could do that. I know growing up, I must have said it at least not a million, but at least 10 times when we would host fight parties at our house. and it was Tyson annihilating Peter McNeely or TNT Tubbs or whoever. And we'd always go, man, I'll go in there for $1 million and get knocked out by Mike Tyson. And these guys are, I heard 92 million, 75 million. Who knows what? I'll do that too to get knocked out by Anthony Joshua. But he's doing it. But if Joshua fights him like he fought Ngannou, like Go said, this guy is gonna exit the stadium, man. Like he got launched by. That's how hard Anthony Joshua punches. Could be ugly. Woodley and Anderson, anyone have any interest? Anyone want to give a prediction, or just do you feel anything real quick? You got about 20 seconds each, Nolan.
Not really interested again. I'm really very much over. I think the MMA fighters jump in a boxing thing. I'm glad that they can make money. It's a fun little thing, but I also don't feel much emotional investment. So good for them.
How about you? Just seeing when Anderson goes into that dance? No, you don't want to see that either?
There's not much on the line here. There's no heat. There's nothing. Boxing has not been kind to Woodley so far, so not a whole lot. I'm glad they're making money, though.
Yeah. Dan, nostalgia, Anderson?
Well, Woodley has been doing good. He has done good against Southpaws, but yeah, this is post-prime boxing Woodley. So it's hard to throw any kind of analysis or any kind of thing I could generate. And who knows? They're just kind of showing up for a check for this kind of stuff, to be honest. And, and I'm glad for it. I'm not hating on it. The fighters deserve it, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea.
Folks, we'll be off next week. No spinning back click next Monday, but we will be back on the 29th. Don't forget, this is also in podcast form. So if you've ever caught the tail end, or you haven't seen this live, or you've seen a replay and it just doesn't fit for watching it live, which I encourage it every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Same place you grab MMA Junkie Radio, Omni, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can catch this in podcast form, and then you don't have to look at our ugly mugs. But anyway, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. I hope you have a great time with your family. And thank you, as always, for your support here. Please subscribe. Help us get to 500,000 in 2026. We're out of here. Go out and be a champion.